Rents are set to rise. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee and let's have a look at this article from realestate.com.au discussing, well, rents rising. We're hearing this more and more, particularly in the regions. Sunshine Coast people are mentioning it. Even here in Brisbane, people are mentioning it. Anecdotally, as I talk to them, we saw all the articles come from the Northern Rivers, where the council there was complaining about a housing crisis, but I don't know how much they've done to actually make it cheaper and easier for people to move around there. I mean, a comparison would be, an article came out recently, Byron Bay Council was forcing someone to repaint their house because they didn't like the colour. Fantastic, guys. Yep, that's it. You know, these are the priorities that our councils are dealing with. Is it any surprise that most of the corruption we hear about day to day comes from the councils all the time? Anyway, but that's a separate topic. Let's start by looking at the current asking rents. We can see here, well, weekly rents in Melbourne are down for 3-bedroom houses and they're down for 2-bedroom units. Okay, so Melbourne, well, it's not rising there, is it? It's going down. And this data's from SQM. We have a look at Sydney. Well, Sydney's certainly going up for houses, 3-bedders, all houses. Look at that, 3-bedders, 692. And then units are pretty much flat. And if we have a look at Brisbane, we can see Brisbane is going up to 497 and 467. Now, what we're seeing here is rents are going to go up in the regions, everyone. That's where we'll see a big impact on rent. Now, what I want to talk about, what I want to draw to everyone's attention is rent controls. Rent controls are what will come into play before, well, they'll be what people will call for. Every time you hear whinging about renting, there'll be more calls for intervention into the government, by the government into the market, and there'll be calls for rent controls. Now, I'm just getting my tablet here ready, and let's, diagram these out to have a bit of a discussion about it. So let's have a look here. Now, first up, let's just have a simple supply-demand curve here. You've got your demand for housing, okay, and this is the number of houses, and this is the price. Okay, the rental charge. So, and then we've got our supply here, supply and demand. As always, we reach a normal equilibrium point here, where the price is equal to what the market can provide. That's kind of what you want. Now, there'll be calls for rent controls, everyone. And that is essentially putting a limit on the rent, saying you can only charge that much rent. So that's the maximum. So what happens is when we have that at a maximum level, there's going to be issues, okay? Because if it's at this maximum level, you're telling people they can only charge this much rent, it's going to limit how much money they can make. So it means that now there will only be this quantity here available on the market for rent, because you can only charge it to this amount. People will cut supply of property. It just won't be affordable. People will take property off the market. People will just leave it empty. It's less maintenance, less issues, less hassle if you have an empty property rather than dealing with some idiot tenant in there. And I know I'm an idiot tenant. I demand, things like repairs and cleaning the property and all of these other costs associated. Now, that's not all that's going to happen, because there are a few things that will go on here. Because what will mean is the demand at this price level, the demand is now here. So you've got Q3 demand, where it used to be here, Q0, but now its supply is only this. So you've got this much additional demand than normal. So you've got more people demanding property, but supply for it is going down. This is similar to what's happening with regards to investors. It's driving up the cost because there are tax incentives for people to buy. And that's why the argument of reducing negative gearing capabilities on investment properties could reduce the cost of housing. Well, people will argue, but then you won't get all the cheaper rental accommodation. Yes, but you'll have more people able to buy a house. So it's a messy situation how they play with all of this stuff. So what we do is we've got an excess supply, but we've only got this demand, or excess demand, we've only got this much supply. So what happens then? Well, landlords make less money as well. Guys, as we can see here, this is now what the market, the money that they were making, where it used to be, we'll colour it in grey, it used to be all of this here. So now that you can see the amount of money coming to landlords has been significantly decreased. So a few things can happen, and we'll jump here and have a look. One of them could be, very simply, the supply adjusts, everyone. So people are going, you know what, this ain't worth it. Stuff this. We've seen it in articles where people struggle to get terrible tenants out of their properties, and they go, no, screw it, I'm getting out of the market, I'm not going to rent. So if this situation were to happen, if all of a sudden, boom, you had a maximum return, maximum rent you could charge, people are going to exit the market. They'll sell and they will get out. So that means you'll have a new supply curve, everyone. It will shift. So it won't just be reduced supply because of return, but people will actually get out of the market. So the supply curve will go here, supply 2. So supply will decrease. And another thing that could happen is that you could have a black market appear. So, maybe even a black market appear at this level, up here, charging a much higher rent to increase supply. Q, we'll call that QB for black. So people are paying more at this level here. Supply is still lower, but everyone feels good because we've got rent controls in. So this is showing you how trying to do something that's for the benefit, that sounds good, that is for the soundbite for the politicians, could have and will have negative consequences in the long term. And you're seeing this in New York. Its rent control is implemented there, and it's causing all of these problems. There's a black market of illegal subletters because people will find a way. The market will find a way, guys. So let's have a look now. With that in mind, that people are going to be calling for this, let's have a look at this article about how rents are set to increase, everyone. So, rents set to rise as property available for rent tightens. So, supply is decreasing, everyone, driving up prices. New data shows Brisbane renters are set to face a major squeeze, with rents to rise after a dramatic halving in the number of properties listed for rent, and Queensland regions won't be spared. Figures released by SQM Research Tuesday revealed Brisbane's vacancy rate hit 1.3% in May, down from 1.5% in April, a result which was tighter than the national residential vacancy rate, which shrank to 1.8% from 1.9%. SQM Research Managing Director Lewis Christopher said falling vacancy rates, which were happening Australia-wide, would see landlords forcing up rents, and he warned regional locations would be particularly hard hit. Only 4,435 residential vacancies were listed in Brisbane in May, just around half of the 8,780 available the year before May 2020, with the May 2020 vacancy rates an easier 2.5%. This is the latest CoreLogic figures, showing that 4,324 properties were newly listed for sale in Brisbane in the 28 days to June 13, at 35.1% jump on the same time last year, though the 12-month change was impacted by the COVID-19 restrictions. The rental market was not expected to ease up any time soon for renters, according to Mr. Christopher. Rental vacancy rates have fallen across the board in May, driving rents higher, especially in regional locations, he said. This trend is likely to remain through the second half of the year, given the fierce competition for rental accommodation in many areas. We are still seeing falling vacancy rates everywhere, from Victoria's Mornington Peninsula, the Gold Coast, right through to the inland areas like Murray regions of New South Wales and South Australia, to outback Northern Territory, along with Darwin, which is having the effect of boosted rents as tenants compete for rental homes. There was still one safe haven for renters on the hunt, though, with Mr. Christopher not expecting CBD zones to tighten too dramatically as life resumes relative normalcy, given the huge loss of international students post-pandemic. Those vacancy rates could begin a downward trend over the second half of 2021, Mr. Christopher said. However, the loss of international student tenants, along with unit oversupply, will keep vacancy rates relatively high as the pandemic continues. Australia-wide, there are 62,144 residential rental property vacancies, down from 66,411 in April, and much less than the 86,398 available in May 2020. So there you go, everyone. We're seeing warnings of a potential rent squeeze here in Brisbane. We saw it ourselves. The little rental we're renting up the streets as we do the reno, they even up the rent. There you go. Everywhere it's happening. So what is the solution to this? Well, here's the thing. We need to make it easier for people to build homes. We need to make it cheaper for people to build homes. We need to reduce the headwork charges and costs associated with developing land and building homes. We need to watch out for the politicians that advocate for reduced development, that would rather have useless scrub sitting there and not homes for people. Okay, you can't live in trees. You got to watch out for the not in my backyard crowds, the greenies and the hippies. People will vote for these politicians because they know they don't give a crap about any of this hippie stuff. They know it'll keep their property prices high and their rents. That's why. We look at the inner city Wollongabba ward people protesting a development out at Ipswich, which would provide cheap housing when the houses here where they're living are probably 3 to 4 times as much. Seems really fair, doesn't it? Anyway, thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one in the comments down below. If you're a fan of the channel and enjoy the content I create here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. Take care, guys. Have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.